He was built for Earth, but she needed him for more than that. When Commander Jack Riley crash-landed on the jungle moon Valessa, all he expected was a slow death in a broken cockpit. Smoke filled his lungs, blood trickled down his temple, and his escape pod hissed and sparked like it was seconds away from exploding. The stars above spun and he blacked out to the sound of alien birds screeching in the distance. What he didn't expect was to wake up in something that looked suspiciously like a hammock made of glowing vines. And even more surprising, the 9-foot-tall alien woman kneeling beside him, eyes glowing faint violet, her fingers gently touching his bare chest like she was studying a new species, which in her case she was. Her name was Karel. Her skin shimmered like wet moonlight, and her hair, if you could call the flowing tendrils that draped over her broad shoulders like liquid silver. Her fingers, 4 to a hand, moved with precision as she tended his wounds using glowing sap and humming crystal beads. Jack couldn't speak her language, but she hummed softly while she worked, and somehow, he knew he wasn't in danger. Karel didn't just heal him, she carried him over her shoulder effortlessly like he weighed nothing. Jack wasn't a small guy, over 6 feet, built like a tank, but she hauled him through the jungle like a sack of potatoes, all curves and muscle and calm alien grace. At first, Jack was just trying to stay alive, but it was the way she looked at him that got under his skin, like he was something she didn't quite understand, a mystery, a puzzle she wanted to solve. Her gaze wasn't hostile, it was hungry, but not in a dangerous way. More like curious, playful, like she'd found something rare and she wanted to figure out just how far the differences went. And Jack, well, he wasn't complaining. They couldn't speak, not with words, but gestures, touches, glances. They started telling stories without needing language. Jack showed her how his comm device worked. She showed him a glowing tree that pulsed with energy and healed bruises instantly. He showed her a protein bar. She sniffed it, took a bite, and immediately spit it out with an adorable expression of betrayal on her face. It wasn't long before the communication got a little deeper. One evening, under Valessa's twin moons, Karel led Jack to a spring. Steam rose from the surface, casting soft blue light around their bodies. She stepped into the water first, removing the minimal cloth she wore without hesitation. Her skin glistened and her body moved like something sculpted by evolution with very specific priorities. Jack followed, trying not to stare, failing completely. They sat together, thigh to thigh, the warm water swirling around them. Her fingers traced over his arm, his chest lingering with curiosity and something else. She tilted her head. He could see the question in her eyes. Are all humans like this, or just you? He smirked. I get that a lot. When her hand moved lower, the contact wasn't medical anymore. It was exploratory, testing, measuring, and then came that look. Surprise, then amusement, and then hunger. Turns out Valessan males were known for being nimble and spiritual, but not especially gifted in certain departments. Jack, however, was built different, and Karel, well, she was very, very interested in learning more. That night they didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their bodies did the talking. Her strength, his endurance, her curves, his size, her breathless gasps, his quiet growls. Their differences didn't get in the way. They made it better. And during the act, something more than heat passed between them. A bond, a connection. As if the universe had quietly decided, these two belong together. By the end, Karel was breathless, clinging to him with a softness that hadn't been there before. And Jack? He lay beside her, grinning like a man who'd just discovered paradise. The next morning, Karel brought him before her people. A council of tall, regal Valessans examined Jack like an exotic creature. They seemed skeptical, until Karel explained what had happened between them, and then casually announced she was already experiencing early signs of something her kind hadn't seen in years: fertility. Jack coughed. Wait, What now? Apparently, human DNA had just solved a decades-long problem. Velessan men had grown sterile over generations. Their bodies had evolved for survival but not for reproduction. And now, one accidental human landing might have just saved an entire species. Culo, amused narrator chuckle. Turns out humans really are the overachievers. Of the galaxy especially. In bed, Carol smiled at Jack like he was the future. He'd come from Earth, but now he belonged to her. And frankly, he didn't mind at all. The jungle moon of Velessa was alive. It breathed. Not like Earth. Its air was thick with scents of fruit and flowers Jack couldn't name. The ground pulsing faintly with heat, as if the planet's heart beat just below the surface. Massive trees with glowing roots stretched into the fog above, and strange birds sang in harmonies that made Jack feel like he was walking through a dream. He wasn't walking alone anymore. Carell stayed by his side like a silent guardian. She moved like water, smooth, confident, but with the tension of someone who could break bones without trying. She didn't need armor. She was armor. Her steps barely made a sound on the mossy earth, while Jack's boots crunched and stomped through the forest like a bulldozer. He was used to being the big guy, but next to her he was manageable. And yet, despite her towering frame and the way she could throw him over her shoulder like a backpack, she never made him feel small. If anything, there was a certain heat in the way she watched him. Respect, curiosity, and maybe something else she wasn't ready to admit. Not yet. They walked for hours, deeper into her world. Jack's arm still throbbed from the crash, but the salve Carell had rubbed on him was working, maybe too well. His body felt alive, energized, like it was running on some kind of alien superfuel. His senses were sharper, skin more sensitive. Every time Carell brushed against him, even accidentally, it lit his nerves up like fireworks. They didn't speak the same language, not yet, but communication was happening anyway. She would stop often to show him things. A tree that bent, down to offer its fruit when approached, a flower that opened only when touched with bare skin. Once they passed a pack of beast-like creatures with glowing eyes and wide tusks. Carell made a quick clicking sound with her tongue, and the creatures backed away with their tails low. Jack was impressed. Later they came upon a stream of thick, pale blue liquid. She dipped a bowl into it and handed it to him. He hesitated, looked at it, then her. She mimed drinking it herself, smiling. When he took a sip, the taste was somewhere between vanilla and lightning. He gasped. She laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but amused, musical. It was the first time he heard her truly laugh. It did something to him. "All right, jungle goddess," Jack muttered with a grin. "You win round one." Carell tilted her head, clearly not understanding the words, but she liked the tone. She touched his lips gently with one glowing fingertip, repeating the words she had heard him say earlier. "Jack," she whispered. He froze. The way she said his name, soft, intimate, like she was holding it in her mouth to taste it. He pointed to himself. "Jack," then, after a pause, pointed to her. She understood immediately. Her full lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. Carell. They stood in silence for a moment, just watching each other. The jungle buzzed around them, uncaring, infinite, but between them, something electric hummed. He didn't realize it yet, but she had already chosen him. By the time they reached her village, the suns had set. Yes, suns. Velessa had two, and now the sky above glowed with purple dusk and silver, moonlight, painting Carell's skin with shimmering shadows. Her village wasn't made of buildings, not the way Jack knew them. It was grown. Everything, the walls, the lights, even the pathways, was alive. He saw homes curled into the trunks of colossal trees, their roots forming spiral staircases. Lights hung in the air like floating jellyfish. Alien children darted between bioluminescent shrubs, laughing in high musical tones, and then they saw him. A hush fell. Jack could feel every pair of eyes on his body, male, female, old, young. And though the villagers said nothing, their expressions varied: awe, suspicion, and some with thinly veiled hunger. It wasn't just curiosity. It was biological. Carell stepped forward and made a gesture, something between a salute and a protective shield. She placed a hand firmly on Jack's chest and said something in her native tongue. It sounded like a claim. The tension broke. The crowd relaxed just slightly. Carell led Jack to a dwelling nestled high in a flowering tree, the walls gently glowing with warmth. She helped him up the vine ladder, her hand on his back, her eyes constantly scanning, always aware. Once inside, he looked around. The place was simple but elegant. Smooth living wood curved into benches and resting pads. Vines pulsed softly, with heat. In one corner, something that looked like a combination of a bed and a giant flower opened invitingly. Carell handed him a folded piece of soft leaf fabric. Clothing? A blanket? He didn't know, but when she turned to change behind a curtain of floating leaves, he peeked, just a little. She saw. She didn't look away. Later, they sat side by side, sharing a strange fruit that glowed slightly and popped like bubble gum. She fed him slices with her fingers. He fed her in return. Their knees touched. Her leg was warm, firm, covered in smooth skin that shimmered like oil under light. When she leaned against him, it felt natural. Right. Jack felt himself starting to understand what this was. This wasn't just first contact. This was selection. She had brought him here because her people were facing extinction. Their males were physically weak, genetically strained after centuries of close breeding and reliance on biotech. Fertility had dropped to critical levels, few births, fewer survivals. But Jack, strong, resilient, vigorous. She hadn't rescued him, she had chosen him. And now her people were watching to see if he was worthy. As the night deepened, Carell moved closer. Her voice low, musical, whispering phrases he didn't understand, but didn't need to. Her body told the story. So did his. He was nervous, excited. She was a warrior, a queen, and something else entirely. But she smiled, cupped his cheek in her glowing hand, and kissed him. Her lips were warm, soft, and slightly electric. Jack kissed her back, arms wrapping around her as her powerful body melted against his. She was strong, but she let herself be held. He felt her breath hitch when his hands moved. Lower. She moaned, a sound that made his bones vibrate. And in that moment, he knew something for certain. Whatever brought him here, crash or fate or luck, he wasn't going anywhere. Carell didn't just want him, she needed him. And he was about to give her everything, because Jack Riley, built for Earth, had just found out. He was made for Valessa and her. Jack woke to soft light glowing through the walls of Carell's home. The air smelled of something sweet, like alien jasmine and warm fruit. His body still tingled from the night before, but not in a painful way. It was more like his muscles had been reset, his blood pumping richer, cleaner. The salves she had used must have had regenerative properties, or maybe it was her touch. He sat up shirtless, the strange blanket she'd given him draped across his lap. The flower bed pulsed beneath him with a gentle rhythm, as if the plant itself approved of what had happened the night before. Carell entered silently from a side chamber, holding a small, steaming bowl of blue liquid. Her long legs moved with effortless strength, and her hair hung wet down her back, clinging to the curve of her hips. Jack blinked. She was already bathed. Damn. She walked over, set the bowl beside him, and without a word, dipped her fingers in the warm liquid, then gently pressed them to his chest. He flinched. It tickled, but the heat spread fast, relaxing his sore muscles like hot oil. She traced glowing patterns across his skin, a smile slowly forming on her lips as his breath caught. Ritvasha, she whispered. Jack tilted his head. Is that your word for foreplay? Because we're off to a good start. She laughed, full, rich, and musical. He didn't know if she understood him, but she definitely liked the sound of his voice. Then, with a slow motion, she offered him her hand and pointed toward the exit. It was time for something. He followed her through the winding village, past bioluminescent trees and thick vines that shifted out of their way, as if recognizing her. Other villagers watched them pass, some with curious expressions, others with quiet reverence. Carell led him to a natural basin, a wide, steaming pool, surrounded by high rocks and hanging blue flowers that swayed without wind. Water trickled down from above, clear but shimmering like stars had been ground into dust and poured into it. She gestured for him to enter. Jack dipped a toe in, warm, luxurious, like the best spa on Earth. If that spa came with alien flowers, that smelled vaguely erotic. Carell slipped into the water beside him, her long limbs gliding gracefully. She moved until her thighs brushed his under the surface. Jack tried to focus on his breathing, but when she slid behind him and began rubbing a glowing paste across his shoulders, all coherent thought shut down. "This is nice," he muttered. Carell leaned in, close to his ear. "Valessan bonding, Beth," she said slowly, like she'd rehearsed the words. "Body prepares. Mind opens." He turned his head. "Prepares for what?" She answered with a kiss just below his ear, followed by a low, vibrating purr that seemed to echo through his chest. And then her arms wrapped around him from behind, pulling him back into her, every nerve lit up. They didn't speak for a while, just explored. Her hands wandered across his chest, his arms, memorizing him. And his hands returned the favor. Her body was both hard and soft in all the right places, curves with muscle, heat with grace, a body designed by evolution to survive and to seduce. And under that water, Jack realized something important. They were compatible, not just in spirit, not just in looks, but physically. Her breathing changed as he explored her, her moans soft but rising. She rolled onto his lap under the water, straddling him with fluid strength, pressing her forehead to his. Her eyes glowed, her lips parted, and then, suddenly, everything around them lit up. The water, the flowers, the air itself shimmered. Jack panicked for a second. Is this normal?" Carell looked at him, eyes wide with pleasure and surprise. "Human, very strong." He blinked. "Thanks." She pressed her hand to his chest, then to her own. "You changed energy." The pool responded to him, as if his biology had triggered something ancient, sacred, desperately needed. She gripped his face gently with both hands and then kissed him again. But this time it wasn't just a kiss. Her thoughts flowed into his. Not clear words, but images, emotions, memories, telepathy, born through intimacy. He saw her as a child, running through the trees, laughing, curious, then older, training in combat, earning her place in her tribe, respected by all. Then loneliness, deep, heavy, the pain of failed bonds with sterile males, the quiet despair of her people's slow extinction. And then, him, falling from the sky, bleeding, beautiful. She hadn't just rescued him, she had felt him coming. Jack gasped as the wave of memory passed. His head buzzed, his body ached, but not from pain, from something deeper, raw connection. Carell was breathing hard now, pupils wide, her hands trembling as she looked at him with a mixture of joy and awe. "You bond," she whispered. He exhaled slowly, still processing the flood of her past. "Guess I'm more than just a crash survivor." She nodded, holding his hands, her expression suddenly serious. "You change tribe. You bring future." That hit different. This wasn't just a romantic interlude. This was evolution in real time. A whole species hanging on by a thread, and he just lit the fuse that might save them. No pressure, right? She leaned forward again, eyes glowing with heat. "Again?" she whispered. He chuckled, his arms sliding around her back. "Lady, I'm just getting started." They sank into each other again, steam rising around them like mist on a dream. The jungle buzzed outside, but in the pool, there was only warmth, skin, motion, moans, the soft glow of alien biology mixing with very, very human chemistry. Somewhere, deep in that sacred water, something inside Carell changed. A pulse, a shift, a signal her body hadn't made in years. Life had just been created. Jack didn't know it yet. But by the end of that night, Carell would, and the entire village, they'd feel it too. Carol sat perfectly still in the warm jungle morning, her body barely moving, her violet eyes locked on the swirling patterns forming across her bare stomach. They shimmered faintly, soft glowing pulses beneath her skin, not painful, just new. Ancient instincts whispered what her conscious mind hadn't yet dared say out loud. The bonding worked. She stood slowly, the living wall of her home parting for her without a sound. Outside, Jack Riley was shirtless and sweaty, hammering together a frame for what would soon be a human-style shelter with Valesan-grown supports. His chest glistened, his jaw was square. He swung the hammer like he was wrestling the moon into place, and Carell just watched him for a long time, arms crossed, lips curled in quiet appreciation. Jack noticed her and gave a crooked smile. "You keep staring at me like that, I'm gonna think you're into humans or something." Carell tilted her head, walked over, and without warning placed her palm directly on his chest. The glowing tattoos that had started forming across her skin flared to life on his as well. Not permanent, just impressions, echoes of last night's energy. The markings pulsed for a moment, then faded. "You feel different," she murmured, using the words she'd practiced. "Not like Valesan males, not like others, more full." Jack wiped sweat from his forehead, panting slightly. "Well, I eat a lot of protein. Earth gym habits die hard." She stepped even closer. Now her forehead was touching his. "No, not muscles. Inside, your life force. It fits." Jack chuckled, then sobered. "I'm gonna be honest, Carell. I've never bonded with someone this fast. I didn't even believe in all this soul meld through mating stuff, but last night, he didn't finish. He didn't need to." She leaned her face into the crook of his neck and inhaled. Her scent had changed, so had his. Something biological had synced. Her body recognized it. The ecosystem around her recognized it. Even the plants near their home now bloomed wider, brighter. Life literally bloomed around their union. Jack wrapped an arm around her waist, holding her close. "You okay?" "I am." She hesitated, searching for the word. "Chosen." She stepped back, then reached for his hand. "Come, we go to the elders. They must feel." He blinked. "Feel what?" Carol gave him a sly look. "You." The Elder Grove was unlike any other place on Valesa. High above the jungle floor, in a massive canopy woven of glowing vines and sacred roots, sat the circle of life tenders. Female leaders, mothers of mothers, ancient and wise but still radiating strength. Their skin bore centuries of tattoos, biological maps of the history they had personally lived. Some were 100 years old. One had walked Valesa before the last mating cycle had failed. Jack entered slowly, Carell holding his hand like a banner. The elders looked at him, hard, judging, assessing. Their eyes glowed dimly as they focused, not on his face but on his aura. "He is not marked," one said. "Not of our kind." "He is not ours," said another. "But he has touched one of us. He has changed one of us," a third added, eyes narrowing. Carell stepped forward, proud and firm. "He is Jack, from the stars, and I have bonded. I have changed. I have conceived." A silence fell. The oldest among them, Lyrithra, The matron, whose skin looked carved from galaxy stone, rose. She stepped down from her perch, walking in slow circles around Jack. Her hand reached out, touched his bare shoulder, and immediately recoiled, not in fear, in surprise. "He burns hot," she murmured. "His seed sings in her womb. This is no weak male." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I'm standing right here, ladies." The oldest elder turned to him. "You are more than we expected. Most males here cannot hold the bond beyond a few days. Their strength fades. Yours expands. Karel has not only conceived, she has awakened." Karel stood taller. Jack glanced at her stomach. No visible changes yet, but he could feel it too. Something had passed between them. More than attraction, deeper than lust. It was chemical, spiritual, genetic. He wasn't just mating with her. They were building something. Lyrathra continued. "You have given us what we feared was gone. Your kind may be the missing link we have waited for. Strong in body, wild in instinct, resistant to our failing blood." She looked at Karel. "He is yours now." Karel nodded once. Then Lyrathra looked back at Jack. "And you are hers." Jack blinked. "I didn't sign any paperwork, but yeah, that sounds about right." That night, Karel didn't just invite him back into her bed. She guided him, not just physically, though she did that too, but through memory, emotion, connection. Their second bonding wasn't like the first. This time she opened her thoughts more fully. She showed him the forests of her childhood, her dreams of flying, her fear that her people would die out before she ever knew love, her quiet hope, buried deep, that someone, some species, would reach out to them before it was too late. She had prayed, and then he fell from the sky. Jack, in return, gave her his memories. Earth, crowded and gray, his years in the space fleet, that moment when his ship caught fire and he knew he was going to die, and how, even when he woke in her arms, he still thought maybe he was hallucinating, because how else could an angel look like her? Their bodies met again, stronger this time, more assured. She moved with purpose. He answered with confidence. His size didn't scare her. It fascinated her. She adjusted. She took him. She wanted everything, and he gave it. Over and over, until the moonlit flower bed shook with their rhythm. Their shared heat lit up the air. The vines pulsed, the crystals hummed, the jungle sang, and when they finished, Karel lay against him, chest heaving, eyes wide with revelation. "Our child," she whispered, "will be first of a new line." Jack exhaled, his hand sliding over her stomach. He didn't need a DNA scanner to know it was true. His bloodline had just gone galactic. Jack was starting to feel like royalty. Everywhere he and Karel went now, heads turned. Some villagers bowed, some whispered, some just stared wide-eyed, like they were seeing a ghost from the ancient stories. But not all the looks were friendly, especially not the one coming from across the ceremonial fire pit that evening, the one attached to a towering, broad-shouldered, Valesan male with golden skin, tightly braided hair, and a scowl carved deep enough to hide a knife in. Karel noticed the tension too. Her hand instinctively went to Jack's chest, a quiet but firm sign. "He is mine." Jack didn't flinch. He sipped from a glowing fruit shell and leaned in. "Friend of yours?" She exhaled slowly, her voice low. "His name is Vator. Warrior. Class. My once pair. Before. No bond formed?" "Let me guess," Jack said with a grin. "He's not thrilled you traded in the local model for me." Karel's lips twitched. "He is strong in battle, respected, but weak in bond." His fire faded too quickly. Jack raised an eyebrow. "So you upgraded." She gave a slow, approving nod. But Vator wasn't the type to simmer quietly. Later that night, under the full glow of Valesa's twin moons, he stepped forward into the sacred circle, armor clinking softly. A hush fell over the gathering. Villagers leaned in. Even the elders stirred. He pointed a long, clawed finger at Jack. This outsider has no root in our soil. He comes with seed, not soul. He does not belong. Jack stood, still shirtless, muscles gleaming under moonlight. Is this a challenge? Or are you just jealous you couldn't satisfy her? Several Valessan women chuckled. One actually choked on her drink. Vator growled. I demand trial by vital. Karel's expression shifted instantly. No, that right is sacred. But the elder matron, Lirathra, stepped forward. Her voice cut through the murmurs like lightning. Let it be done. Jack turned to Karel. You want to translate? She looked embarrassed, a little exasperated, and slightly turned on. It is a contest of virility, not battle, not words. Trial of vital is... She hesitated, searching for the least awkward word. A demonstration of what one can give a mate. Physically, energetically, it tests your ability to fulfill. Jack blinked. So, we're having a mating duel? Karel nodded. In front of the council, yes. He set down his drink and cracked his knuckles. Lady, this moon just keeps getting better. The ritual began at dawn. The sacred arena, an open glade, surrounded by hanging crystal bells, was prepared with care. Soft moss flooring, luminescent fog drifting at ankle height, and pulsing stone platforms spaced around a shallow, steaming pool in the center. At one end stood Vator, chest bare, already coated in oil and growling like a cornered predator. At the other, Jack stretched his arms lazily, still looking more like a man waking up from a nap than preparing for an alien performance duel. Karel sat beside the elders, her expression unreadable, but her body unmistakably tense. Lirathra stood and raised both hands. Let the trial begin. What followed wasn't fighting. Not exactly. Each male was assigned a vital partner, a willing female from the community who served as the conduit of energy exchange. Not quite intimacy, but close. Very close. Vator went first. He approached his partner, a tall, muscular female who looked mildly unimpressed, and began the ritual. His hands moved with practiced precision. His energy surged. The crystals above glowed. Her body reacted. The arena glowed faintly red. Polite applause. A few respectful nods. Then it was Jack's turn. He stepped forward, slow and casual, rolling his neck, giving Karel a wink that nearly made her melt. His assigned partner, a shorter, curvy Valessan with electric blue eyes, looked nervous. He is very dense, she whispered to the elder overseeing the ritual. Jack approached her gently. No rush, no bravado, just confidence. He began the energy transfer, hands on her hips, movement with rhythm, breath sinking. He didn't push. He flowed. And something strange happened. The woman gasped. Her body arched. The crystals above didn't just glow, they sang. The arena lit up in gold. Actual vines from the trees surrounding them twisted downward as if reaching for more. The partner's legs gave out. She collapsed into Jack's arms, trembling. Not hurt, not exhausted, satisfied. The crowd went completely silent, then erupted in murmurs. Karel stood, face flushed, chest heaving slightly as she stared at Jack like she'd never seen him before. She already knew he was different, but now the entire moon knew. Jack helped the woman to her feet, kissed her hand respectfully, and returned to the center. He looked at Vator, grinned. Is that it? Do we do best of three or? Vator stormed from the arena without a word. The elders didn't even need to vote. Karel walked down to him slowly. He expected a kiss. What he got was her, body launching into his arms, legs around his waist, mouth on his neck as she whispered something that made his knees go weak. You have no idea what you've just started. That night, their bond deepened again. It wasn't just passion anymore, it was ownership, trust. Their bodies now knew each other's rhythms. Her alien curves fit his rough hands like they'd been sculpted just for him. She guided him through positions designed for her kind. flexibility and grace beyond human norms, and he brought power, endurance, and something her people hadn't known in generations, staying power. Her walls trembled with each movement. Her cries echoed in harmonic tones, and when they climaxed, the air pulsed with heat that cracked nearby crystals. Afterward, they lay tangled in vines, breathless. Carell finally whispered, "You are not just mate now. You are bond lord." Jack chuckled, voice raspy. "Sounds fancy." "It means you carry my future," she said, her hand resting softly on her stomach, "and the future of my people." Jack looked into her eyes. "No jokes. No smirks, only truth. I'll carry it. All of it. You. The child. This bond." Carell's eyes shimmered with unshed emotion, and far above, the jungle moon of Valessa glowed a little brighter, because somewhere deep in its roots, it now believed in tomorrow again. The jungle rains came at dawn, warm and golden, like mist falling from the heavens themselves. They whispered through the trees, stirring flower buds open and sending bioluminescent leaves into glowing trembles. The entire village of Valessa seemed to breathe in the moment, and at the center of it all stood Jack Riley, barefoot, shirtless, arms spread wide to the rain, laughing like a man reborn. Carell watched from the platform above, her hand resting over her belly, just below where the ancient Valessan markings had begun to appear again. Not from a tattoo, not from war, but from life. She could feel it now, a new pulse, not hers, not just Jack's, theirs. Her fingers trembled as she traced the curve of her stomach, not visibly swollen yet, but her body had changed. Valessan. Women didn't show for many weeks, but she knew. Every fiber of her soul knew. The child was real, and it was strong. Below, Jack turned to look up at her, rain dripping down his broad shoulders, hair matted to his forehead. He smiled that lazy, rugged smile she had fallen for the night he first grunted through their translation barrier and muttered, "You're way too tall to be this soft." She descended toward him, slowly. Her people stepped aside without being asked. When Carell moved now, they watched. Not out of suspicion anymore, but reverence. She was no longer just a warrior, she was the first mother of the future. When she reached him, she took his hand and pressed it to her skin, right over the new warmth. Jack paused, then blinked. "Is that..." Carell didn't speak. She didn't need to. His face shifted slowly at first until realization bloomed like a supernova behind his eyes. He swallowed. "You're really pregnant?" She nodded, barely holding back tears. "It lives. And it is yours. Ours." For a long moment, neither said a word. The rain danced on their skin. Around them, the villagers knelt. Not in submission, but celebration. Then Jack pulled her into his arms, tight, trembling, burying his face in the curve of her neck. He wasn't the type of man who cried easily. But right now, he couldn't stop. The next few days were different. The trial with Vaetor had ended any remaining resistance. Word spread fast, not just that Carell had conceived, but that the bond was thriving, stronger than any Valessan pairing in generations. The elders, once cautious, now treated Jack with genuine respect, offering gifts, honor markings, and even a ceremonial blade forged from lunar ore. Carell helped him wear it properly. "You are not Valessan by birth," she whispered as she adjusted the strap over his chest, "but by blood, you now are." Still, not everything came easy. Jack found himself navigating new responsibilities. Males in Valessan culture weren't usually leaders, but Jack, he couldn't help it. He fixed broken irrigation vines, helped restructure bridge supports with earth engineer know-how, and even introduced the concept of a pulley system, earning wide-eyed gasps from villagers like he'd reinvented fire. Children followed him everywhere. One tiny Valessan girl named Lou climbed onto his back and refused to get off for 2 hours. When Carell found them, Jack was snoring under a tree, Lou curled against his chest like a baby seaster. "You collect strays," Carell teased. Jack grinned without opening his eyes. She started it. Their love deepened, not just through passion, though there was plenty of that, often enough to scandalize passing foragers, but through small things. The way he braided her hair, the way she ran her fingers over his scars, the way he watched her speak to her people with pride in his eyes, like a man who knew he was part of something much bigger now. One night, after a long walk through the glowing moss gardens, they sat by a still pond, the stars of Valessa reflected on the water's surface. Carell spoke first. "Do you miss Earth?" He thought for a long time. "No, I miss pieces of it. Coffee, loud music, engines, people." She tilted her head. "You have people now." He smiled. "I know. That's why I don't miss the rest." She leaned into him. "Will more come?" "Eventually," Jack said. "My signal will reach Earth soon, but they won't come with warships. Not unless I tell them to. They'll come to help. To learn." "To bond?" she asked, arching a brow. He snorted. "Let's just say some of my crew are very open-minded." She nodded, serious now. "Then we prepare, not just for them, but for our kind, our child." He placed a hand over hers. "And I'll raise that kid to know exactly who they are." Carell smiled. Human strength, Valessan spirit. Jack grinned. "Best of both worlds. Hopefully with your height too. Wouldn't hurt in gym class." She laughed softly, curling into him under the stars. Their child was already rewriting the destiny of a fading people. The villagers spoke in hopeful whispers now. Other females approached the elders asking to be included in future bonding ceremonies. Some even brought jackfruits, awkward notes, and once, a basket of glowing vines shaped like a heart. Carell bared her teeth the third time it happened. "Mine," she growled. "Yours," Jack confirmed, laughing, kissing her cheek. "Forever. But nothing that changes the future comes without threat." That evening, a scout returned with troubling news. A neighboring tribe, Zilari, had heard of the skyborn seed and the miracle child. They didn't believe it. And worse, they saw it as a challenge to their dominance. "They are preparing to test us," the scout said. "Perhaps even attack." Jack cracked his knuckles. "Let them try." But Carell shook her head. "We cannot win by force. We win by example." "What do you mean?" he asked. "We show them the truth. Our child, our strength, our unity. We show them what bonding really means, and they will join." "And if they don't?" Carell's eyes narrowed. "Then they will learn what it means to threaten a mother." Jack kissed her hand, then her lips. "Guess we better make some more examples," she smirked. "You just want more bonding time." He pulled her into his lap. "You say that like it's a bad thing." As Valessa's twin moons rose again, casting the jungle in soft silver light, Jack Riley stood beside his mate, her hand in his, her stomach warm beneath his palm. Around them, a new generation gathered. Humans would come, Valessans would rise, and somewhere in the stars the galaxy would soon learn. When humans bond, they don't just survive, they build legends. The day the Earth ship arrived, the sky caught fire, not literal fire, more like a great blooming halo as the long-range recon cruiser Athena pierced Valessa's upper atmosphere. In a slow, controlled descent, it gleamed silver against the violet sky, flanked by soft sonic ripples and the shimmering trail of its approach vector. Jack Riley stood shirtless on the edge of the jungle ridge, Carell beside him, one hand resting on her stomach. His other hand gripped the hilt of the ceremonial blade given to him by Valessan elders. A mix of pride and anxiety swirled in his gut. "They're early," he muttered. "Typical Navy timing." Carell glanced at him. "You fear them?" "No," Jack said. "I fear what they'll try to do." She tilted her head, her eyes glowing softly. Then let them try. You will show them. The ship touched down just beyond the outer grove. Birds scattered. Bioluminescent creatures skittered away. And then, hiss, the landing ramp extended. Hydraulic pistons exhaling steam. From the mist, 5 humans emerged. 4 officers in navy gray uniforms, and 1 scientist in a lab coat, clutching a scanner like it was holy scripture. Their boots crunched on moss, scanning everything with wide eyes. Jack didn't wait. He walked straight down the trail, shirtless, scarred, glowing faintly from Valesan markings, muscles gleaming with sweat and ritual oil, and with Carell at his side, radiant, visibly pregnant now, her belly bearing the pulsing glow of the bond mark. The humans stopped in their tracks. Lieutenant Hargrave, the lead officer, blinked 3 times. Commander Riley? Jack gave a lazy salute. Still breathing, the lab tech dropped his scanner. The redhead beside him whispered, "Oh, my God, he did it." Hargrave cleared his throat. "We received your emergency beacon months ago. Command thought you were dead." Jack smirked. "Turns out I crash better than most." Hargrave's eyes shifted to Carell. Her posture was perfect, her gaze unblinking. The authority she carried made even the decorated human soldiers shift uneasily. "She's, Hargrave tried. "My mate," Jack finished for him. "She's very tall." Carell stepped forward and offered her palm. "Carell, first mother of new blood." The officers looked to Jack for translation. "She's carrying the first hybrid child born on Valessa," he said flatly. "And it's mine." The lab tech let out a squeak. "You're saying that you successfully bred with an alien species?" he asked, already reaching for his datapad like a caffeinated raccoon. "Yeah," Jack said. "Not just bred, bonded." He turned slightly, displaying the now permanent Valesan mark along his spine. Gold, violet, and crimson intertwined, a living, breathing signature. This isn't just genetics, it's something bigger. Bio-spiritual, symbiotic, he added. They weren't dying from biology alone. They were dying from disconnect. No bonds, no spark. Hargrave muttered. "And you gave them spark?" Jack gave a half smile. "You could say I lit the fuse." The group fell into stunned silence. Behind them, more Valesan began to emerge from the trees. Tall, graceful, glowing-skinned males and females, some paired with humans from the Athena's landing team. Expressions shifted from wary to curious. One Valesan female tilted her head at a human pilot, clearly inspecting him like a choice cut of meat. Carell noticed. "Others watch," she said softly, eyes locked on Jack. "Some seek bond." Jack exhaled. "Yeah, I figured this wasn't going to be a one-time event. Your kind, not subtle." From behind, one of the Athena crew, Corporal Jensen, broad-shouldered, tall, and clearly fresh out of the gym, was already laughing nervously as 2 Valesan females examined his arms like prized tools. "So, do they usually sniff you first?" he asked. Jack clapped him on the shoulder. "That means they're interested. Try not to pass out this time." Carell gave him a sidelong glance. "Is he strong?" Jack smirked. "He's got potential, but he's not me." Carell purred, low and playful. "Good." The Earth delegation didn't take long to realize they weren't in control anymore. This wasn't a mission. It was a meeting of futures. Over the following days, negotiations began. Cultural exchanges, genetic discussions, mating compatibility analysis. The Valesan elders gave formal consent for select human visitors to remain, on one condition: no force, only bond. Jack sat in the council chamber beside Carell, watching, as the bureaucrats fumbled through diplomacy like blind men in a glowing garden. Charts, projections, hypotheses. But Carell's people already understood what mattered: connection, energy, desire. When the first Valesan human pair stood before the elders, Sarah, a fierce young female, and Corporal Jensen, now wearing only tribal wraps and a nervous smile, the bonding ceremony began. The glow in Sarah's eyes told them everything. She chose him, and the pattern had begun again. Jack turned to Carell. Told you they'd follow. Carell's smile was gentle but fierce. They follow, but you lead. Her hand went to his again. This time she placed something in his palm, a small, pulsing crystal, embedded with a swirl of their child's early energy signature. It shimmered with every beat of her heart. What's this? He asked. Carell spoke quietly. Legacy stone, for first father. Jack swallowed hard. You mean I'm going down in history? Carell leaned close, her lips brushing his ear. You already have. That night, under the twin moons, Carell and Jack walked alone into the flower-lit grove where the bond ceremony had first changed their lives. Around them, plants pulsed with the energy of the growing village, humans and Valesans, laughing. Together, mating, building, belonging. Small lights floated in the air, drawn to the life force of the newly formed families. Carell turned to him, her body bathed in silver and violet. Others will come, she whispered. More from Earth. More who want what we found. Jack nodded. I hope they understand what it really is. This isn't just about breeding or pleasure. She finished the sentence. It is about becoming. They sat on a woven vine bench, overlooking the valley. You changed my world, Jack Riley, she said softly. And in return, you became part of it. Jack wrapped his arm around her, pulling her in close, her warmth pressed against him. I came here looking for a way home, he said. Now I never want to leave. Her eyes shimmered. You gave me something I thought was lost forever, she whispered. He kissed her forehead. A child? She shook her head. A future. And as the camera pans up, the jungle glows, soft blues, purples, golds, as life pulses through Valesa. In the distance, more Earth ships arrive. More curious souls. More open hearts. Because in a galaxy filled with stars, danger, and emptiness, one thing has become clear. Humanity doesn't just survive the unknown. It seduces it, one alien heart at a time. And on the moon of Valesa, under twin moons and rustling leaves, love grows, strong, strange, beautiful, and just a little bit bigger than anyone expected. The end.